I've got a client sitting on $400,000 in a single stock. Here's what I told them to do first. It's the opposite of what almost every other advisor in the country would say. I'm Szasz, the Open Source Millionaire. My books are open. Every decision, the wins and the ones I take back. So picture it. You worked at a company like CrowdStrike or Netflix or Nvidia. You held the stock, and now you're sitting on $500,000 in one position. You walk into a financial advisor's office. What's the first thing they tell you? You've got to diversify. Sell it right now. And honestly, I think that's horrible advice, because the second you sell, you do two things. You trigger a big tax bill you didn't have to trigger, and you might be dumping a lottery ticket, a genuine once-in-a-lifetime winner, and rotating the money into a basket of stuff that statistically is probably worse. Here's the thing that most people never hear. We've talked about the Bessenbinder research on this channel before. When you look at the entire stock market over the long run, only about 4% of stocks account for basically all of the market's wealth creation above Treasury bills. 4%. The other 96% collectively barely move the needle. So think about what that means. If you're lucky enough or smart enough to actually be holding one of those 4% winners, selling it might be the single worst move you can make. You'd be trading the rare thing that actually builds wealth for the average thing that doesn't. There's a book I read early on when I first got serious about investing called Rule Breaker Investing, and it flipped my thinking completely. Everybody talks about taking profits, taking gains off the table, selling your winners. It turns out that's exactly backwards. You shouldn't be selling your winners. You should be selling your losers, the positions you gave 2 to 3 years to, where the thesis just didn't play out. Those are the ones to let go of. But when the stock has compounded 10x or more, selling it is incredibly painful. And in a taxable account, a non-IRA account, it comes with a real penalty in the form of taxes. You want to avoid that tax hit if you possibly can, and hold that winner as long as you can. Now, I don't want you to hear never sell and think that this is risk-free. It isn't. A single concentrated position carries real company-specific risk. One bad earnings call, one bad product recall, one scandal, and a huge chunk of your net worth can evaporate. So the real question isn't sell or hold. It's how do I hold this thing intelligently and protect myself while I do. And that's a decision, not a reflex. So let's walk you through how I actually think about it, the same way my team and I do it at Verde. Step 1, your risk tolerance. Be honest with yourself. If this position dropped 40% next quarter, would you lose sleep or would you shrug and hold? How much of your total net worth is in this one stock? Is it 60% of everything you have? That's a very different conversation than if it's 10% of a much bigger picture. Step 2, your time horizon. When do you actually need this money? If it's untouchable for 15 or 20 years, you can afford to ride out the volatility. If you need it for a house in 2 years, protecting it becomes a much bigger priority than squeezing out more upside. Step 3, how big is the tax bill? Really, what's your cost basis? A stock you bought at 20 that's now $200 has a very different tax profile than one you bought at 150. Because in a taxable account, the government is essentially a silent partner in every sale. Every dollar of gain you realize, you're handing a slice to the IRS. That's the cost of hitting the sell button, and it's the cost most advisors conveniently ignore. Only after those 3 answers do you pick a mechanism. And there are real tools here, the same ones that the wealthiest families use. The first one is a collar. A well-timed collar lets you set a floor under the stocks so it can't fall past a certain point. And in exchange, you give up some of the upside above a certain ceiling. You're essentially buying insurance on your winner and often financing most of that insurance by selling some of the upside you probably weren't counting on anyway. It lets you keep holding, keep deferring the tax, and still sleep at night. The second is borrowing against the position, a securities-backed line of credit. Instead of selling the stock to get cash and triggering the tax, you borrow against it. That gives you money to live on or to invest elsewhere and diversify without ever hitting the sell button. Now, I have to be clear here. Borrowing against your investments carries real risk. If the stock drops hard, you can face a margin call and be forced to sell at the worst possible time. So this is a tool for people who understand it and use it carefully, not a free lunch. And if you do decide that some of it should come off the table, you do it slowly and deliberately, spread across years, maybe using your losers to offset the gains, not in one panicked click on day one. And look, this isn't theoretical for me. I have 2 very concentrated stock positions of my own. My stake in Verde, my own firm, and a position in Tesla that I've had for over 10 years. So when I talk about the pain of a giant tax bill or the fear of watching a concentrated position swing, I'm not reading it off a script. I live it. What I do and what my team at Verde does is exactly what I just walked you through. We size the position against everything else you own. We use protection strategies when the risk gets concentrated enough to matter. And we lean on borrowing rather than selling when I need liquidity, because I'd rather keep the winner working than hand a third of it to the IRS for no reason. If you're sitting on a big appreciated stock, don't let anyone stampede you into selling it on day one. Remember the 4%. Sell your losers, not your winners. And if the risk is real, and it usually is, protect the position instead of dumping it. Work the decision tree, risk tolerance, time horizon, tax bill, then the mechanism. This is genuinely one of the highest stakes decisions a good saver ever makes. And if you're at that point where your time is worth more than your labor, you can put the same institutional grade money management behind your money that I get from Verde. The link is below.